Hey everyone, I'm Kathleen Trigg-Jones and welcome to another iWoman Report. Today we are zoning in on mental health. People everywhere are struggling to cope. Many who didn't even think they had mental health concerns are facing breakdowns, anxiety attacks, and of course, we all know suicide, sadly, is at an all-time high. One good thing that the pandemic has forced many of us to do, however, and especially the younger generation, is to open up and get help. Some people are even taking steps to normalize conversations around depression and anxiety by opening up online about their own personal relationship with therapy and addressing personal traumas. So what's the deal? Why is addressing your mental health so important? And what can we all learn from Gen Zers who are flooding social media platforms with content dedicated to adding a little humor to a health crisis? Well, we're going to dive into all of that. Plus, we'll be joined by dance and movement psychotherapist Jennifer Sterling, who's going to discuss how mental health uniquely affects Black women and how taking a holistic healing approach may actually help resolve your mental health issues. All of this is coming up on today's iWoman Report, but first, I do want you to take a look at this video where many celebrities are opening up about their own personal battles with mental illness.
Just wanted to do something to make people feel good and less alone. It's not just about, that, it's also about personal demons and anxiety and more intimate tragedies as well,
I started looking into Ayurvedic medicine. I started looking into mindfulness and meditation. I started looking into a mantra. I do acupuncture. I do cupping. I pray sometimes. I make music. I write poetry. I'm an actress now. That's helped me a lot.
I've always been suicidal, but I've never had the balls, which I'm very lucky. For the first time, maybe when I went away this time, I felt like I had maybe almost the balls, because it's starting to get when you're not feeling good and you're going through all this stuff and there's people at your house in Staten Island, it just really drives you fucking crazy.
I have to say, that video just makes me want to just exhale, just breathe. One of the things that I thought that really stuck with me, I don't think we had it in the video, but was when Lady Gaga said what has helped her, quite frankly, is just learning to say no to the things that she doesn't want to do. So words of wisdom from the wise to all of us. When you're struggling, don't force it. All right, well, let's dive right into today's report. There is a new report out, actually, Mental Health America's State of Mental Health Report for 2022, which shows that nearly 50 million Americans experienced a mental health illness over the last couple of years, and more than half of them did not receive any form of treatment. Over 60% of the kids who experience major depression don't receive treatment. And even in states with so-called good access to mental health, well, there's still only 1 in 3 children who are not being treated for their mental illness. Sit with that for a minute, right? We're not getting enough help. Working mothers, female executives, and Black women have all seen an increase in risk for mental illness due to the pandemic. According to McKinsey's Women in the Workplace report, working mothers face more bias and barriers than men and women, go figure. Women in high-power careers are twice as burnt out as men, leading to increases in stress, depression, and exhaustion. Black women are promoted at significantly lower rates than white women and encounter more microaggressions than any other group, yet are least likely to report that their superiors check in on them and their well-being. Is not to mention, in the past year, 1 in 3 women have considered downshifting or changing careers because of exhaustion and chronic stress. So not that this is any surprise to any of us, but it's certainly alarming.
Even when Black people are properly diagnosed with mental health issues, it can still be a challenge to find a therapist who's equipped to handle their needs.
Making the crisis worse, not enough African American therapists. Today, only 4% of psychologists are Black.
Kevin Durden says admitting he needed help was actually easier than finding it. He saw 3 different therapists, but felt that none of them understood the stress and emotions unique to Black men.
When Taraji P. Henson's own son Marcel was struggling, she found it nearly impossible to find him one.
Trying to find a culturally competent therapist was like looking for a purple unicorn with a gold horn.
Do they understand the cultural context from which I'm coming from? Do they understand the culture that I live in?
Mental Health America's goal for 2022 is to have every telecommunications company direct Americans who dial the number 988 to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. This will serve as an alternative to calling the police during a mental health related emergency.
Starting July 16th, 988 is a new 3-digit code for suicide prevention and emergency mental health services across the country.
With 988, it's going to be an easy number, a much easier number to remember, and it really puts us in a position to help individuals.
Unlike 911, 988 calls will be answered by trained crisis counselors who can link callers to resources. And if necessary, a team of healthcare professionals, not police, will respond in person.
We want to avoid that escalation and make sure that we're not putting law enforcement in that situation where the goal here is help.
You know, another key stat that I wanted to point out is that over half of children and adults lack access to proper resources. But I have to say it's really hard to solve a problem that no one wants to talk about. And that's why we need to pay a little more attention to Gen Z. They've got it right, everyone. They may be young, but they are definitely not shy about their mental health. And of course, TikTok has become their therapy sofa, if you will, where they lay it all out.
No, but it's not funny. At the end of the day, is it? It's serious.
I suffer from anxiety and depression. How do those two energies go together? Like, ah! Oh. Ah! Oh. I'm afraid of the future.
I regret the past.
How did this happen?
I blame myself.
I need to face my fear.
I gotta lay down.
Oh no! Our grandma! She's broken!
Sometimes I worry that if I heal from all of my trauma, that I won't be funny anymore. And that's just not a risk I'm willing to take.
Well, Gen Z, in case you didn't know, is the age group between 10 and 25. They're a very unique group because they're passionate, socially charged, and their willingness to bring mental health into the conversation is admirable. Lots of conversations, basically every conversation that they want to talk about, they air out on social media. And TikTok, of course, is the platform that has become the keeper of the humor-filled yet brutally honest mental health pantheon. Another trend that you may have noticed is that many television shows have now been tackling very heavy-hitting mental health issues. Shows like Normal People, The Queen's Gambit, and The Umbrella Academy. But none have captivated the intrigue of the younger generation quite like HBO Max's hit Euphoria.
Careful now, you're
I'm sure most people would say the world would be a better place without me. I don't disagree. I wish I could say I didn't mean any of it. I thought it.
Did you become like a good person?
I felt it.
You made it sound like an emergency.
I said it.
They weren't boyfriend and girlfriend! Oh, she needs an exorcism.
Don't worry, I'm not here to apologize.
I think I actually want to murder her.
What about Nate?
I have a few ideas.
Oh, it's heavy, but let me tell you, even my own teen daughter is totally addicted. In fact, every teen that I know is addicted to Euphoria. Now, Zendaya stars in this high school drama about drugs, addiction, the anxieties of teen life. This show has faced recent criticism, however, from the anti-drug organization DARE, who says the show glorifies drug use, setting a harmful example for today's teens. Although Zendaya has responded saying the show is, quote, in no way a moral tale, and took to Instagram to explain her hopes for her character, Rue's future, after a dramatic episode that dealt with her struggles with drug addiction. Many, many, many mental health experts have been weighing in on this debate.
So this isn't just random actors coming in and looking to glorify drug abuse, is what they tell me. This is the real deal. And this is what we need to know. I mean, as a parent, it's a wake-up call for me. It's hard to watch.
It's very hard to watch. You know, first of all, as parents, we can't stand to watch our children suffer in any way. But to actually understand what they go through in their own struggles opens the door for parents to be able to have a conversation with them, to understand the challenges that they're facing, and also understand what's out there that's pulling them toward them. You know, our adolescents and our teen population have been through extreme stressful situations now related to the pandemic, being separated from their social environment. And so that pain has to be solved. That pain has to be addressed. And young people don't have a fully developed brain in order to be able to rationalize some of the actions that they're taking. And I think a show like this, if we look at the positives, it's allowing young people to say, I'm not alone, but maybe I also need to share this and to seek help.
I don't know. It's a little heavy, but this leads me to my question of the day. Is airing shows about drug use, mental health, and even suicide causing harm to our teens? Or is it simply art imitating life, and something that we as adults and especially experts can learn from? We'd love to see and hear your responses in the comments below, or take to our Instagram and take our poll there on iWoman TV. I have to say, I have mixed feelings about it. I think we might actually need to wake up. I personally think I need to go home and binge watch on Euphoria, because the bottom line is your teens are binge watching on it. So if you are ignoring it, then I think you might be stopping yourself from being informed. It's just my 2 cents. All right, turning to another side of social media that is not so positive. There's been an increase in teens self-diagnosing various mental health disorders due to what they're seeing on social media, which, as we all know, can lead to its own problems.
This is a really important topic, Phil, because self-diagnosis does increase the danger of both symptom amplification and minimization. What can happen is what we sometimes refer to as a horoscope effect. It's when you read symptoms online and you feel really connected to it, so much so that you believe that you must now have that particular diagnosis. And we know, for example, that it takes a professional really to sort out the difference between a symptom and an actual clinically relevant diagnosis. And the challenge with self-diagnosis also is that you may miss things that are masking physical health problems. We know that there's a high degree of comorbidity between physical symptoms and psychological ones. And sometimes a heart palpitation could mean that you need to see a doctor for your cardiovascular health, and not necessarily that you have anxiety or depression or other more serious mental illness.
So how do we cope with all of this? With so much negativity in the world today, many of us may just need to go back to the basics and take a 101 course on coping during a pandemic, if anything like that exists. Our guest today, Jennifer Sterling, is a dance and movement psychotherapist. She takes a holistic approach to mental health, and she created the Bodyful Healing Project to help Black women feel more vital by learning how to have a sense of what it feels like to be well. Jennifer, welcome to the iWoman Report.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. What is the Bodyful Project?
Yeah, Bodyful Healing is an initiative I created to support Black women in their mental health. And what we do is dance movement psychotherapy, which is invite the body into therapy. As when I was growing up, mental health wasn't something that was really talked about. And so I wanted to start having those conversations as somebody who lives with depression myself, and support the women in my community in doing the same.
Are you seeing that women, and even Black women, seem to have a more load, a heavier load on them?
Yeah, I think Black women, especially because we tend to be the anchors for our community in so many ways. And so being isolated and already having limited resources puts a lot of stress and strain on bodies that were already under a lot of stress and strain to begin with. So I have seen an uptick in the number of inquiries we get for therapy. And even, on a younger level, I've seen a lot of kids being admitted. I work also in a psychiatric hospital, and a lot of younger children being admitted for depression. So this period of isolation, if we're already prone to depression, it just kind of kicks up what was already there and makes it worse.
And then what happens is your body then kind of shuts down and protects itself. So then you isolate yourself, and then it becomes even harder to get out of. It's a cycle, right? It's a cycle
Yeah.
that just doesn't, there's no end to it unless you get help at some point.
For sure. Yeah, depression is immobilization, right? The body moves into depression usually when it's been in a period of high stress. And we move initially, for most of us, into that fight or flight space. And when we can't sustain that anymore, the body says, okay, this isn't going away. We need to conserve. And so then we move into a depressive state and immobilize. And so depression is that, like, I'm staying in my bed. I feel like I can't move. I'm really heavy. I'm lethargic. And so in order to move ourselves out of that place, we literally have to start moving.
Now we know in the Black family, people, we dance, right? We will
Yeah.
dance. Our kids are dancing at a young age, and it brings me so much joy. Sometimes I get caught up watching dance videos online just because people just seem so happy, and seeing whole families dance together just seems so incredible. But I didn't know there was actually a whole healing factor behind, this movement. Is there a chemical reaction that happens when you dance?
Yeah, so there's a lot of science to show that movement itself actually increases all of those really great neurotransmitters that we need to feel happy, to boost our mood. So dopamine, serotonin. And then when we're in connection with other people, our nervous systems get really happy when we're safe and social, and we have a sense of belonging, which is why social dance is such a big mood booster.
So can anyone take your class? Do you have to be a dancer? Like, for instance, I don't really have that dance coordination gene in me, unfortunately. That's my other side of my family. But yeah, could anyone just come? If I came to your class, would I have to stand all the way in the back, or would I fit right in?
Yeah, so they're therapy sessions, right? So we do whatever you're comfortable doing. And sometimes that looks like big expressive movement where we're really emoting with our bodies and moving through our feelings. And for some people, that looks like noticing the way that their sensations are moving through their body, right? Because movement is not just like me doing a dance, there's movement happening in our bodies all the time. And so in dance movement psychotherapy, we just invite some awareness of what's naturally happening in your body, and we can certainly use movement and dance as well to express. So we start where you are, and you don't have to have any rhythm, and you don't even have to like dance, right?
I want to move into some tips before we let you go. There are a lot of people who are suffering. You're a mother, I'm a mother, and I've seen just a decline, not only in my own children, but in their friends and in my sister friends, our employees. People are really having a hard time right now. What would be some tips that you could give someone, especially if they're struggling to get out of bed, to leave their room, or just feeling that anxiety when they do step out into, the world now?
Yeah, I would say start small, right? I know for myself, when I'm experiencing a depressive episode, what comes up is like all the things I should be doing. And that in and of itself can get really overwhelming. So rather than think of like this big thing, I have to leave my room today, or I have to get out of bed today, can there be some small action that starts to move you in that direction? And that could be, I'm going to lay here and I feel like I can wiggle my fingers. So what if I just start to wiggle my fingers?
Wow. I mean, the way you break that down just as a reminder that depression is very real, and it's not for anyone else to judge what you can and can't do. As parents, our tendency sometimes is to say, well, just get up and go. right?
Yeah.
You just get up and face your day, see the sun, and it's going to work. And, you know, seasonal depression is very real. I know, you know, because you moved to New York from from Florida, where it's the sunshine state, right? Where it's really nice. Listen, Jennifer, I could talk to you all day long. We'll have to have you come back. Maybe we could even do a workshop with you or something, invite some of our viewers. But I just really want to thank you for coming on and sharing this really important tips and just a reminder that mental health is real and it's a work in progress for most people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Tell us where we can find your website.
The website is thebodyfulhealingproject.com, and we're on all the social media things at Bodyful Healing.
Make sure you visit Jennifer Sterling of the bodyfulhealingproject.com. Make sure that you reach out if you have any questions. You can find information about her on our website. Thank you again, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right, on a good note, you may have seen the news that Olympic gymnast Simone Biles announced this week that she is engaged. Well, you will recall during the Summer Olympics in Tokyo last year that Biles was not in such a good place, and she took herself out of the games to prioritize her mental health. While many did support her, there were still many, including many commentators, who just made me so mad, that accused her of being a quitter. Biles stated at the news conference following her withdrawal that she felt like it would be a little bit better to take a back seat and work on her mindfulness and applaud her teammates from the sidelines.
I knew that the girls would do an absolutely great job, and I didn't want to risk the team a medal for kind of my screw-ups because they've worked way too hard for that. So I just decided that those girls need to go in and do the rest of the competition.
If I had to guess, I'd say it was probably the best decision she ever made. And I would say her mental health break definitely worked out well, because look at her now. She's choosing love and planning a wedding with her boy, Jonathan Owens. Congratulations to both of you. Well, the demand we have for elite athletes to have a perfect performance is just something that we need to be more conscious about across the board as sports regulators and as parents. Athletes are not superhuman, and their well-being is more important than any sport. If their mental health is suffering, I can promise you they won't perform well. It doesn't matter how talented they are.
The games themselves are exactly that. They're the highest highs and the lowest lows that 99% of the athletes at the games are ever going to experience.
It's stressful while you're there, but it's also really fun, and then it's over, and then it's like this hangover.
My mental health suffered a lot when I was injured because I couldn't do what I loved and get that feeling of racing.
I didn't realize it, but I was subtly putting pressure on myself to constantly be pushing the limit and essentially exposing myself to risk.
I think what Simone did in the Summer Olympics last year was incredible. I mean, it takes a lot of courage to be able to stand on the world stage and talk about mental health and about what she was going through. And I think it gives a lot of other athletes and just people in general more courage to be able to speak up and ask for help and get support.
I was lucky enough to get help from a really great sports psychologist who really helped me getting small pieces of control back in my life.
One of those things that I try to focus on is not seeing every competition as pressure, but seeing it as opportunity. Instead of seeing it as, I have to land this run, I started seeing it as, I get to land this run.
If I'm confident, that means I'm having fun and I'm skiing well. So I'm just trying to be in the right state and believe in myself.
I think the thing that helps me, that makes it all worth it, and that can kind of bring some spark back into that whole dream or the whole process, is like your friends and your family.
I can be a little bit of a roller coaster myself, so I have to bring it back in and remind myself of the tools that I can use to help me stay grounded. Eating really good food, cooking, spending time with people you love and really care about, and finding ways to be in service to others.
You know, although we are athletes and although we've spent so much time on this in this sport, the most important thing is that we are humans and we need to take care of ourselves as people rather than just as athletes all the time.
Let's take a look at some of the mental health trends that you may see pop up this year to address the issues that many of us still face. Trauma-informed care is an approach that uses the information on a patient's past trauma to help treat their current state of being. This practice started gaining traction in 2021, and you're definitely going to see it implemented by more doctors and clinicians in 2022.
Instead of asking patients, "What's wrong with you?" I ask, "What happened to you?" Recognizing that life experiences are often a root cause of poor health is integral to improving patient care. Trauma-informed care has helped me take these experiences into account, providing greater insight into my patients' needs and how to address them.
Well, another topic of discussion surrounding mental health is digital wellness. The definition of digital wellness is an intentional state of physical, mental, and social health that occurs when mindful engagement with the digital and natural environment occurs. Well, we can thank the pandemic for access to virtual therapy visits. Even once we escape the shackles of COVID-19, I'm fairly certain that telehealth services are here to stay, as it opens us up to access to a wider demographic, including those who are immunocompromised, disabled, or have transportation difficulties.
SparkRx is the first evidence-based digital therapeutic. It's a self-guided mobile app designed to treat symptoms of adolescent depression. It's designed with subject matter experts and, importantly, with the input of teens to ensure a clinically effective and engaging program. And what's unique about digital therapeutics is that they are fully treatment programs. They're meant to treat diseases or disorders. And so in that way, they are different from an app that you might regularly download off the App Store. They're held to a higher standard of demonstrating safety and effectiveness, and they are overseen by a healthcare provider, and SparkRx is actually prescription only.
And finally, virtual reality will lend its world to help those suffering from chronic pain. VR will start to be integrated into current treatments for a more enhanced solution than what can be achieved through various medications and therapies. Well, we have certainly covered a lot on this iWoman report, and I hope that you can begin to be mindful about the state of your mental health and those around you. And this brings me to my thought of the day. Although it may seem like everyone is suffering, or for some of you, it might feel like no one else is suffering except you, that you're the only one. Whatever is true for you, it's important to remember that your feelings are real. Embrace the reality of what you feel on a daily basis, the highs, the lows, and the in-between, and be kind to yourself for feeling the way that you do. Depression and anxiety are certain to feel worse when you start judging or blaming yourself for feeling the way that you do, or getting angry over the things that you're not able to accomplish because you just can't seem to pull yourself out of this negative space. It's so important to remember that no two people are alike when it comes to mental health. And good-intentioned people can sometimes make things worse by trying to push you to motivate yourself or feel something that you don't. So as someone who has danced with depression off and on my entire life, I leave you with the one thing that has always made me feel better, and that is the fact of knowing that tomorrow is always a new day. If you're not feeling it today, sometimes you just gotta shut down, quiet that noise around you, and come back fighting tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day. The important thing is to come back. All right, well, that's gonna do it for this iWoman report. I wanna thank all of you for joining us. Everyone, please stay healthy, stay happy, and stay safe. And if you or someone you know needs help, please call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. There is no need to suffer in silence.